This building was originally Naomi Institute. It was constructed in 1870 by Professor J.D. Patterson, and it opened as a private school on September 13, 1870. In December of 1871, there was a fire, and Dr. Patterson was able to repair everything and reopen the school after the Christmas holidays, but he never recovered financially from that fire. So in the spring of 1872, he sold the building to the school system, and it reopened in September of 1872 as Rock Bluffs School, District 5. And it continued as an elementary school until the end of the 1969 school year. It was donated to the Cass County Historical Society in the 1970s and listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1977.
I'm Tom Sullivan. Went to Rockwell School 8 years.
Bill?
Bill Tolman is my name, and I kind of grew up down in the whole area there. I originally started in grade school at Rock Creek, west of there, a mile and a half, 2 miles, something like that. In the 3rd grade, we split. Our parents bought the farm down there in Rock Bluff, and we moved down there. And so I finished the 3rd grade in Rock Bluff School.
Maybelle?
No.
Yes. I graduated from Rock Bluff School with the class, and we did have to go down to the courthouse and take an examination, and it was kind of scary for us because we knew how important it was, but I started in Rock Bluff School, and 2 years I went to St. John's School here in town, and then the war and everything came up, and you couldn't get an apartment. So we went back to Rock Bluff School.
I'm Jim Furlong. I had a twin brother named John and a sister named Carol. My dad's name was Red, or they called it, his real name was Herschel. I only went to school in 54 and 55. My dad went all of his years there, and 1915, and my great-grandfather came into Rock Bluff in the 1870s, and he kept diaries for 55 years. It's pretty interesting about, Rock Bluff.
Cheryl Sullivan Henry, attended all 8 years at Rock Bluff.
Are any of you classmates?
Yeah.
Maybelle and Tom, okay.
No.
Who are the first teachers you remember? I don't.
Lois Troop, 1st and 2nd grade.
Our first carnival queen.
No,
No.
that was a
Lois.
different Lois Troop.
The other Lois Troop.
Okay.
Mrs. Jack Troop.
Yeah.
Lois, yeah, we had her 2 years. And she's a very good teacher. The other one was Rona Tilligan, who has just passed away recently at 100-some years old.
I remember the floats that Lois created. The one that stands out in my mind the most was on a hay rack or a truck, but she made all of the presidents, a bust of all the presidents. There wasn't any kids on it, and I believe Truman would have been the president at the time because he was at a piano and had the automation of the hands.
Do you have memories of listening in class and learning what the older kids maybe were learning and you were picking up on it?
Certainly. And a lot of times, because there was the 8th grade, the teachers were kind of spread thin, I would think. And you, as you went up in the upper grades, you would have a, listen to the younger ones read to be a helper, mentor.
Now there's a rather minimally maintained road leading. Has that changed, or was it always looked just like it does now with the road leading up to the school?
Oh,
The road that goes to the school now, years past, it went a city block down and then it went straight west
Yeah.
to the county road. The reason we can remember that,
They call it-
it was always a challenge. Somebody was sleigh riding over the noon hour. You would go down that hill, instead of turning that corner, you could get airborne. Going straight ahead.
How was the school heated?
Cold.
Cold.
Cool.
Even
With one register. Big square register.
Did
The
you-
coal furnace was in the basement.
Yes.
Yes.
But it was always comfortable in there in the wintertime. It
Yeah.
was never cold.
Us older boys were always anxious to be the one that got to go down to scoop coal, and, you know, that was a way to get out of class maybe, I don't know. We had to be a 7th or 8th grader probably to do that.
Slower and it's
Did the
nice.
teachers usually live in the area with someone or did they drive in?
Robert Ray was a temporary teacher for a while. He had a Model A pickup. My dad says, don't you ask him for a ride.
Why was that?
We didn't either, because that would be unfair to the other kids. That's why Dad wouldn't let us get a ride with Bob Ray, because he would go right past our farm on the way home.
Did any of you ride a horse? No?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is,
Two
every
of
way that
us
we
got on
got
the
there.
horse.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wasn't very fond of horses, and I would choose the bicycle.
So you rode your horse to school and kept it there?
Yes,
Can you tell us, yeah.
just tied it up down by the tree.
I lived right below the school, and so I just had to crawl through the fence every day, and walk up there. It was just a little jaunt to go up there. So I had made,
Go ahead. I remember my dad had a old-fashioned buggy with a team because our farm was quite a bit off the main road. And we'd go in that, and sometimes when it snowed and had a lot of snow, he also had a wagon that they put on sleigh skis. And it was kind of fun. It had jingle bells.
What kind of games did you play at recess?
Annie I over. You ever hear of that?
Yeah.
It had like a tennis ball, and it split it up in 2 groups. And it's a long way. You throw the ball over and catch it, and then they'd come around, and whoever your tag would be on your team.
Up and go right down that hill, couldn't it?
First days of school in the fall, the schoolyard would only get mowed right before the school started. And it was mostly native grass, and it was pretty tall, and mowed with a sickle mower. So you'd have all this long grass, and us boys that made very good huts for, get a bunch of twigs together, and you could have a pretty nice little hut built out of that.
And how long would that last?
Quite a while. There'd be 2 or 3 of them.
What kind of end-of-school picnics, programs, Christmas programs?
They always had a play at the end of the year, and they had the whole school come up. I mean, all the kids were involved in it, and the year I was in it, I was a bus driver, and believe it or not, we were all dressed in blackface. And I was driving the bus, and it was so funny because everybody would forget their lines, and the teacher was up there, and somebody would say something halfway through, and then they'd say, well, you have to do this, and you have to do that. But I can remember that program. They had a stage, actually, that they set up. So they had that school program every year.
Yeah, because the stage wasn't permanent, right? They just,
No.
there's not,
I was going to say, tell you about that. That was another one of the things that boys always tried to get me on that cruise, to go down in that cave there and carry up those 1x12 boards and the sawhorses. We'd carry that up and put it on the west end of the room where the furnace grate was. That's where the stage would be. And they'd get that all set up for the program, and the program would be whatever the teacher decided date they were going to use, whether Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever for that program.
we mentioned recess. What else do you remember from recess other than the few games you mentioned? How about the playground equipment?
They had the big merry-go-round, which still stands today. That was fun.
There was a big plum thicket out to the northeast side, and these big long limbs, and we'd get up and hold on them and jump up and down. There'd be 4 or 5 of us, and it would be like a teeter-totter, just jumping up and down on that. There was an apple, there was an apple tree behind the girls' restroom, which was on the left side, and the boys' restroom was on the right side. So they each had, girls and boys' restrooms. Well, when the girls would go in there, the boys would run in and grab a bunch of apples and throw it and hit that. No, it was my brother. I hated that.
And by restroom, you mean?
Outhouse.
Well, I can remember something that we didn't have water in the school, and it was little chores. Everybody got to go down with their friend or whoever was assigned, and we'd walk down, and it wasn't very far, and I can't remember if we really went into that little store and got it. That's probably where we got it, and then we'd carry it back up the hill and put it in the cloakroom.
Was there a school bell?
Yes,
So the bell, the
the
teacher
bell
rang
is
the bell?
in here now, but I'd like to tell you a story about the bell.
Yeah.
I asked my dad, who went there, started in 1915, Dad, you remember anything funny happening at the school? And he says, yeah, one time at recess, the boys took a rope and threw it up and pulled somebody up on the top of the roof, and they went over and took the clapper out of the bell. And when the teacher went over to ring the bell for recess, there's no sound. But I can remember ringing that bell, because the older kids, the teacher would say, ring the bell, it's time for them to come in. There's a rope coming down through a pipe, and you'd ring the bell.
The rope came down in the cloakroom?
Right? Yeah.
As you
No,
go.
it was in the schoolroom.
Yeah.
Oh, in the schoolroom itself?
Yes.
Tell us about the 8th grade exams. What do you remember from those, and what were they?
Just a whole lot of questions is all I remember.
Divided into subject matter or just?
Yeah, I don't remember it all.
But the reason for this, of course, you were,
So you could go on to the high school.
and you had to pass,
Yes.
or you could not go to high school.
That's right.
Was
Did
there
that
any
happen?
kind of an 8th grade graduation ceremony at the school?
Not at the school, it was in town,
Yeah, that's right.
county, all
All
country schools.
Hard to do.
What about music? Being a musician,
I don't.
did you have a piano in the school?
Yes, we did.
And had music every day?
I don't remember. But
Music
I remember
every
piano.
morning.
Probably saying America the Beautiful or
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge Allegiance.
That would depend on your teacher, wouldn't it? If she
Certainly
played
did,
the
yeah.
piano and was musically inclined.
I think
And some
that
teachers
happened
were
about
not
every
at
year.
all.
Yeah. But you
Was
still
that-
did the pledge.
Somebody'd always have to go out and hang the flag on the flagpole.
Mhm.
And you stood around the flag, well, saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, you did that in the morning? You would go,
Yeah.
No matter what the weather?
Weather permitting.
I think I remember like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think 3:30 was going home time, but I think 3 o'clock on a certain day of the week, the teacher would have us sing songs, and we had songbooks. And all the songs like Johnny Come Marching Home, and that's a long time ago. Anyway,
Become their
all
own
these songs, we all learned those.
One thing that was nice is when we came in from lunch, I can't remember what by that time, all the people were settled down.
Above the blackboard, chalkboard, were the cards with the penmanship.
Yes.
And I thought it was always exciting to learn the cursive writing, and now it's not taught at all.
How many did you have in your classes usually?
Probably 3 at the most.
At the most, you had 3
We had 2 graduate from high school.
and they would come and
8th
go.
grade. Yeah.
Bill?
We had 4 or 5.
I think there was like 17 when I went to school, in the school, in the whole school.
Was the only thing that was going on.
Yeah.
We were-
You always have electricity down there.
No,
No.
You did
no, it was
not.
1947, electricity, REA came through.
Wow.
Bill has a story to tell about going to school and running home when you got electricity. Tell that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Electricity was coming to town, and my dad hired 2 guys to wire the house and everything, and we knew that. Well, we went to school that day, that it was coming due, and when we ran down out of that school hill as fast as we could go, and on home we went, because we wanted to see that electricity happen. And when we got there, we went into the house, and we had these wall switches, and every one of us kids would just run the switches up and down like that, checking them,
So did the school get it at the same time?
like the school building.
It's about 1947.
Yeah.
So do you remember then, you were in school, do you remember then it being at the school without electricity?
Oh, yes.
So there were hurricane lamps?
Most of the time, school was out at daytime, you know. The only time for electricity, we had, what we used in those nights.
Above the chalkboard, there was little cast iron holders for the regular lights, and I think they're here at the museum. There was 4 or 5 of them there. And I was probably, in the 1st grade, I don't think there was electricity there, but the 2nd grade, electricity was there. So
Yeah,
I can vaguely remember having those lights on a real cloudy day,
You do.
but
So-
otherwise I don't.
So really, it was just the sunlight coming in.
Yeah,
In the daytime, you didn't
yeah.
even realize that there was a need for electricity.
You mentioned the coal furnace. Was there ever a heating stove upstairs, or would that have been before your time?
I don't
It
remember.
would have been before.
It was before.
The southwest corner of the building was a window down near the ground level, and they take that out, and a coal truck or wagon would bring the coal and throw it in that window, and went down into the coal.
And,
Compartment. I was going to talk a little bit about that furnace again. There's 3 or 4 girls in my grade, and they'd argue with each other to who got to stand above the furnace, the floor furnace. And they always wore dresses, you know. They stand on the floor furnace, and this dress from floating up, and they push them down, and they'd float up, and they'd push them down, and they'd take turns going in, you know, on and off of that, you know. They got along on that, okay.
Well, we've gone on for a while. Any other things you want to get off your chest before we stop this?
No part 2?
Couldn't go all the way.
Well, thank you for coming in today.